Mr. Within is planting trees of clarity in the mind of man. We see that it's as if when cities were designed, all the trees were being taken away. And trees are necessary for oxygen, but they're also necessary to the health of your mind for their image, for you being around that sense of life, you know? We can see that towns move. Nature and forests out of manifestation. The energies of those trees are still present, by the way. But it is not something to look for or try to understand, because it is it will be a mind game for you if you're not conscious of why you even need it or not. Curiosity killed the cat, but the cat who listened to his intuition was never curious in that way. To quickly sum up this note, pretty much cities are bringing houses and they're pushing nature back. What Mr. Within is doing is bringing nature back, but we see that physically we cannot, because there's obviously buildings on that land, but we can communicate natural imagery. So it's very important for us to have natural communicators that are looking at life and communicating it clearly to their environment. That is your greatest contribution, to bring clarity to our environment. Bringing clarity means that person who was being aggressive, you talk to him and you acknowledge him and you're like, hello, human being. Of course, you don't say anything. These are, you listen, but you kind of see that it's as if you are working into bringing a harmony that is beyond temporal and physical understanding. This harmony comes with self-awareness. So it's as if me and you were pillars that were keeping this plane of reality present. If you suddenly become shaky and you don't know who you are and you just go into dissolution, I begin to feel more pressure as a human being. So all those people dying is having a huge pressure on the psychology of man in his abstract realms. And so it is his task, it is your task as a being born in the social world, born in the city, to immediately equip with yourself with the greatest tools of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and immediately go into action in contributing clarity to your environment. We don't need to pick up trash. We need to get rid of the trash that is in our mind, that is in our thinking. And we do this by communicating clearly and not in a way that we're assuming. So when I say communicating clearly, it does not mean we suddenly will create a group and go change the others, because science has a similarity in its movement similar to how Hitler's movement did. As if one ideology is to rule them all, because that's the strongest ideology that's being communicated by the current society. No, ideology changes. Even science changes its face here and now. We handle life by handling and being aware of what we're communicating to life and in life. And once you become aware of it, you sometimes wonder, why have I been communicating like this? Why have I been saying no? And you see that the reason you've been saying no to all the flows that are coming to you is because you did not trust what was given. So there was a point in my life where I, for example, read this understanding of these sadhus in India, and these beings were pretty much sages who just had put out their life in regards to finding communion with God and just understanding the nature of reality and their plane of existence. So these sadhus would at times walk and they would only have a bowl and they would have just a cloth, you know? And so they would walk around and they would go and ask people sometimes for money. They would go beg, and sometimes it would be just given to them. And so it's very important that when you communicate to life, you also are aware enough to hear what life is saying back. And I'm saying this playfully and poetically, but at the same time, it's very true. All these words that I'm communicating, I will receive a relevance from them later on. So in other words, all that I'm doing now is meaningful to where I am working with my projections to find myself beyond. Every human being is working with understanding, working with and trying to see what even understanding means as a concept. And so that brings in your immediate dualities into question. And so if you choose not to get too deep in it, you simply say, I don't want to see anymore, this is good. This is what I want. And you can live, fine like that. We've been doing it for a while. But if you're someone who's interested in advanced communication, if you're someone it's important for you to find Mr. Within, you will immediately realize that your clarity has nothing to do with who you think you are right now. Your sense of personality has nothing to do with where your presence is, in a sense, walking to. So you might think you're suddenly going into the perfect life you've been planning for years. Suddenly life will take you out of that university and perhaps throw you into conditions you've never known man experience before. I want to appreciate and very gratefully thank all those beings who are suffering, and regardless of their awareness and how much they feel trapped or not, but are bringing new experiences of form into this plane of existence. Regardless of your interpretation, a great performance of life is happening, and you are in that performance. You are that performance. Enhance your performance and recognize that you need to cultivate and enhance your vision. So regardless of how much you like to have fun, you like to do certain things or live in a certain way, no one's asking you to change externally. Even though certain changes might help you, but the moment right now is communicating to you that it is very important that you enhance your vision in new ways. You need to look in new ways. So sometimes, if you don't know something, you can go ask. And who do you go? You go ask your family, relatives, and you see, oh my God, my ancestors are telling me this is the only solution, right? And you go ask culture and society, and you see everything externally is telling you something, but you're like, okay, why am I not still getting this? It is because you are forgotten to ask yourself. And when you ask yourself, you become every profound intersection in the circle of life, which all came down to be reality in a black hole. Your veil will leave. You will get an understanding of reality that will become existentially comfortable. So it's not that transcendence is some very magical light phenomena and some crazy imagery. It is you getting more comfortable with existence, and in doing so and being more able to be within the present moment and to be aware of the emptiness that is keeping everything fulfilled, you would then enhance your communication by being an advanced receiver of life, an advanced communicator. Because your self-awareness is more. It's as if you're recognizing awareness is beyond dictation, and also how form is dictated into design. You know why man is finding it very phenomena, as above, so below? As I usually share that, I believe it's either by Plato or Socrates. And as above, so below, Plato, I think. As above, so below is very interesting, because you begin to see the similarity in your perception and how other forms of perception exist. So when I look at an object, there's an assumption that this bench is not externally intelligent. It's not showing any intelligence. And then when I look at you as a human being, and then we have a nice, very interesting conversation, suddenly I'm saying, okay, there's more intelligence here. But again, because I can shape you, I'm wondering what's beyond the shape. geometry is how perception is in conscious view. But as consciousness, as the observer experiencer, you fade beyond this body of separation. So what that means is all that the intermediaries were doing was creating a bridge where all was granted passage. So all that you see, the concepts of angels, guides, and other beings guiding mankind doing, is to enhance his reality to a degree where perception is clear, not based on external fluctuation, but a certainty that is aware of all change in this life. And you will see, guys, it's very beautiful and it's mindful, and it's not something that a lot of people can understand without practice. And when I say practice, is that you need to practice I don't want to say you need to practice in the sense that you have to do this, but you just need to be interested in your perception, in how your eyes are working. And as you are, by being sincere, honest, and deciding not to do anything that is assuming that you are a sense of self lost in a game, your view will encompass all views, and you will find yourself in ecstasy, but an ecstasy that is the reunion of your separate thought into its dissolution as an existential awareness and divine attention to its form. So it's as if your whole body shifts in alignment, because the intention of you as a being, as consciousness, as a inspiration in this existence has been made more aware of, in the sense that self is beginning to perceive that self within other, and other is beginning to perceive itself in self. So suddenly compassionate understanding became that advanced technology. So the Dalai Lama was way ahead of his time in saying, guys, be compassionate, because he knew, wow, people are going to get angry. It's as if humankind is moving towards an agitation through a lack of awareness to how his communication is creating a state of being. When multidimensionality enters your reality through your own direct experience of life, you begin to see that you no longer want to fuel social interactions that are not going anywhere. And you want to see what this all means, and you become so contemplative that many senses of other are dissolving because your thoughts are so deep. Your thoughts are so deep that it's as if your reception of all your problems is totally gone, because your phone has just got another additional bar of signal. Sometimes the profoundest experiences of man, I have found, are ones where he is part of that movement. It's as if that moment where there was no longer a God looking down on man that could give wrath, but it was as if all creation and all creator came together to flow the same way. There's in Indian mysticism and yoga and literature, it is suggested that the gods would at times come down to consult the mystics in the Himalayas, or something like that, the great seers in the Himalayas. And this was a profound relationship of imagery, because it suggested that the creator and the creation, the creator that had created all creation, came to re-understand his creation from an individual aspect of creation who had understood the totality of experience. So there are many beings who are lost in feeling that they're gods. Do you see all those people who are building wealth and abundance for themselves? they are moving themselves in a direction where on their subtler planes they are going to not just control money, they're going to control experience, but it's not gonna take them anywhere, because they are not understanding the value of the contribution that they're not doing. It's as if they are not valuing their present incarnation as a human being to work with the intention of this plane of existence. Do you know why it's all kept in love? Because the plane of existence is alive just as you are. And this plane of existence, its intention is to move itself beyond itself, as we see through evolution. But all those people who are keeping wealth are just fueling bad ideas that are not helping the experience. So what that means is population is a problem if you think that human experience needs to be cultivated like cattle, something that you need to raise and segment in time. If human experience becomes something that is just one that is enhanced to its purest in the moment, we will not invest in, for example, trying to, we won't invest like billions in jets. Because we are seeing that human experience is more significant than how much one individual human experience finds itself to play with itself. Do you know? It's that moment where masturbation was never a solution to sex. The actuality of the experience was the lesson. Your ability to sometimes listen to life is the teaching. Your ability to observe life in profound and deep ways is your greatest understanding and the step which is being realigned through novelty. So let's say if I'm a person, suddenly I'm born in a world where I'm a slave to not just the physical world and everything, and not to just other beings, and not other beings, but I mean, like, in other words, let's say I'm a slave to a society that doesn't take care of me, a culture that doesn't take care of me, is treating me like an object. Let's say I'm a slave to that kind of society. I will see that the solution will be that if I think I am controlled, there is still an external power beyond me. I am still a slave if I'm still thinking as a slave. But if I have a direct experience of the freedom I am, of the moment of experience that is beyond the chains of space and time, I will no longer speak as a human, as a form that is trying to change things. I will be a moment of clarity within the presence of all. And that is when a cosmic lion has roared for the first time, where in its roars, infinite realities aligned based on the nothingness that they were kept in and the awareness of the being to his emptiness, which gave all fulfillment. You need to respect your ideas, and that means sometimes you might have been raised in a religious household, and you might suddenly be like, oh my God, I need to get away from this stuff, religion. But you are not valuing the decision you made as an energy to manifest form around that environment. You are an aware being, and I'm pretty sure all those people who are still blaming their parents are not taking the responsibility that it was your choice that you weren't self-aware. Sometimes you weren't given a chance, of course, because it's conditioning, but still every moment you have you can have a new awareness to your limitations that is limitless. Conception is the illusion if you think you're only one part of it. But if you step back in the sense that you become aware of the moment of your being and simply just how through your comfort and playfulness the greatest understandings can usefully be utilized by you, a hectic world fades because you can no longer communicate a hectic world, because there's no longer a self that is trying something. You have become a moment of being in which clarity is omnipresent. That moment where you knew where your house was, just that knowing, it's as if it was omnipresent. Anywhere you could go, you knew exactly where your house was. And so we need to treat life like this and not to dull down life into an object. You see, science I don't know how much this has been communicated, but science was the greatest inspiration of one man to see linearity out of a world which hasn't been interpreted yet. Now that science has evolved, that one man, if Newton could suddenly be reincarnated into another kid in our school system or something, he would see that the next direction is that he needs to be inspired by not an apple anymore, but his next work would be to now emerge and introduce man from its thick years of building linear understanding into new non-linear flows of how its intelligence is maintained in this cosmos. Your vision leads to your greatest work. It's that moment where you're looking at a tree and you see, wow, in an instant, this tree has gotten geometry, because I'm assuming the branches don't have dimension. I'm considering the branches don't have dimension. And suddenly the tree has dimensions. When I see each branch, is as if it's grown in a new experience of space and time. And so it's as if mankind and the human species was a branch that was just considering itself rather than considering the trunk and all their branches and the intelligence of the whole tree and the soil, how the plane of existence was in a sense cultivating it, and also the light that enhanced it. So mankind has a very important task of understanding novelty and what a new experience means. And this is simply the tree becoming aware of the light that is expanding it, allowing it to grow. And also we need humanity to also become aware of its roots, in the sense that what was there before it needing to ever to do something. It's as if we're reaching to we are taking the human idea and we're looking at it in the most static way, in the most still and silent and calm version. And we're also taking it and seeing it in its most loudest and most capable and, let's say, active and moving and, let's say, noisy version. And the bridge is made because we are the greater observance that is observing it. Once the bridge is made, it's as if you don't need that bridge and you go looking for a new bridge to make. And so perhaps after you've made a bridge, your next bridge is one in thought. That compassion is important. That an awareness to what the human being is communicating is important. Because what if we are right now like a child who is breaking an expensive, let's say, phone, who's breaking his parents' phone, is not recognizing he's doing it, but all that he has to do is just stop and look at the thing and become aware. If you stop what you're doing, put it down, and just just look at it, just observe it for a second, you will see the stillness is your greatest teacher when all your problems are coming from the movement and the interpretation of sound. Because the silence holds many secrets. The silence and stillness are simply gates to man's understanding of how eternity is more than an infinite spectrum. I hope that reality becomes something you take existential responsibility for and work in contributing and being a very clear emanation. In Tibetan Buddhism, there's this concept of certain beings recently, for example, reincarnated, incarnated being emanations of greater beings, other beings who were before. I want you to take this concept from Tibetan Buddhism not in the same way, but simply see that you are the spark of a new experience in reality. And you are an emanation of your ability as a conscious being to utilize all individuals of separation. And so we may even see that in that Iron Man movie, Tony Stark was inspired to create in his lab machines that were doing the physical work. It's as if machines that were doing also a lot of the internal work and calculations as well. But he was aware of the source that was giving intelligence to the machine. And so when you lose that, you suddenly think the world is taken over by machines. But if you become aware of it, you realize it never can be, because you are present now. And so consciousness is not chained when it is the creator of chains. You are an emanation of a new moment and new ability to contribute to your world and to your worlds and to your world of worlds, your world of worlds. Contribute in many ways, and recognize that the one thing you can immediately do that Mr. Within would suggest is that for the pilot of consciousness to become aware, he must really become mindful. So go and really see where the greatest teachings of mindfulness lie, and then navigate with an ease. You need to reduce stress, but not a lack of confronting change. What that means is that back then, it's as if they knew life was movement. Because if you didn't have your back, someone could kill you. For example, think of the Vikings, Viking age. So it's very important to see that you need to be aware and situationally aware. Your physicality requires a situational awareness, and one where you're just aware of your space. You're just aware where you're present in. You're just physical reality, you're aware of it. And science is giving us a very great reference of this. Science is telling you exactly this is physical, it's based on these laws, and so that is real for a reason. There is a reason science is leading some of the next newest advancements in technology. But all sciences were inspired by the words that inspired man's vision. And so if science thinks that religion did not pass the torch to it, it will not be humble, and you will see that science will lack humility, because it's as if nature is being avoided out of its human dimensions. It's very important, if you are studying the sciences, you do not lose your humanity, because you are working with ideas that are regulating your world. For example, a quantum physicist is one who needs a very calm mind, needs a mind that can become still to see the movements of this world, and both the movements of formulas and theories on the page. In regards to mindfulness, I would recommend many people to look at the work of Thich Nhat Hanh. And this man has a quote, and his quote is, "Smile, breathe, and go slowly." You will see all those things, all those situations and thoughts in your mind and projections where you thought you were about to crash fade away, because you can't. You're a new experience. How can a new experience be tainted by an awareness of the old? Even the awareness of the old is happening in the present moment. You are, in a sense, refabricating your memory now in how you can receive your individual idea. So many times you think that you're being aware of exactly your past childhood, but in a sense, no. The environment is giving you a new filter in how you would interpret and try to make your past memorable. It is said that they did this project where I believe social experiment, where they brought certain people, and they told them, for example, your relatives in the other room, okay, and your relative says that you were there in their childhood when they fell something like this. And so all these people suddenly were like, "Oh yeah, I remember this. I remember exactly. I was there. And the whole point of the test is that no, it was false information. The relative never had that experience. So all those other relatives who were doing the test, who said, "Oh yeah, I was there and I saw my this person fall and whatnot," based on how the experiment was implying it, suddenly recognized that their certainty in the moment gave them the permission to communicate and bring forth imagery in their life. Not a lot of beings are allowed to bring a lot of internal imagery from their internal dimensions into their externality, because in doing so, it requires a transcendental understanding. It requires a selfless understanding. You have to be a very compassionate being to have your internal dimensions be very externally communicatable. And so that's the moment where you as a being are walking in this life, and so everything is happening on its own. Your heart is beating by itself, your talk is occurring as you breathe. And in the silence that captures all moments, we were always the greatest awareness of the dream. And so as wakefulness was forgotten, clarity understood that it needs to be a new acknowledgement of the self through a greater multidimensional. It's no longer black and white when yin and yang are found in the same circle. There are many paths up the mountain, and you're going up this mountain on your own. If you choose to ask others and work with ideology, you're asking someone else on the mountain how you should step up the mountain. Regardless of the information you ask, regardless of the ideology you subscribe to, you still need to take your steps up the mountain. You need to walk through your direct experience, and do not fear death. Do not cry. When death occurs, stand in complete silence and stillness and empty your mind and observe. Trust me, just because a being leaves its physicality, it does not mean that that being is not communicating its love. There are observances that see after life, but these observances are only there until a certain cognition is received, and they are in a sense taken away. The cognition is still from an individual source. So you think that your individuality is just this physical body. In actuality, it's not. It's actually how your world is kept, and how that world is kept based on your observance. There is the knowing that you're always beyond it. So pretty much what I'm saying is that sometimes if imagery communicates to you that you don't understand it, don't worry. Don't think that you're behind. You know, it's just how nature is designed. There have been some days when I was young in Iran, I would go to the bakery, you know. And so some days I would go to the bakery and it would be, my God, this line is so long that it's as if like I just had to step out of my front door and I was on the line. You know, I was in the line. You know, this line to the bakery. And there have been moments where suddenly I've gone to this bakery and it's as if, you know, in some way, all the people were pushed aside because another guy decided to come into work and help serve bread. So in other words, the new guy who suddenly came on the job was like, hey kid, what do you want? You know? And suddenly, there was a very profound view. Anyways. Reality is what is directly here. All that you perceive is not directly in your experience in regards to external reality. I'm standing here and I'm talking to you. I don't directly have your experience, but I directly have my own experience. And it's based on this direct experience that I'm having as a self-aware being in which I have a certainty to even communicate. So self-awareness is the foundation to everything you want to do in this life and to do in any reality. And by maintaining this, the pilot of consciousness has a certainty beyond the clouds of confusion that make it think. The steering wheel has dematerialized. You are aware. The pilots of consciousness are beings who are aware of the advanced communication that every being is. It's as if they're those beings who become aware not just as their physical body, but as all of conception. It's as if they suddenly realize the pilot of consciousness was just that person where if you asked him a question, his knowing would come from the totality of the experience that he's aware of in the moment, and in a sense, it's never him speaking. Even his communication is transcendental. Even his words are aligned thoughts that thought they had no relevance to one. And so, the plane of existence is always here. And so is the pilot. I would like to share with you guys a quote by Rumi. He's a person who I quote quite often because his wisdom is vivid in profound ways. This is his quote: "Raise your words, not your voice. It is rain that grows flowers, not thunder." And similarly, guys, you will see that your awareness will enhance your life, not your individual reactive response as an animal who's trying to survive. Your self-awareness is your vision present in clear knowing. Much blessings and namaste.